And next up, we have a speaker from another country joining us live from Lithuania. And we will be talking about how much does business intelligence implementation truly cost. Yesterday, there were questions about well, what are the resources, how many people you need, and the costs. So we have invited the business consultant at Avalytics and the lead and the leader of Power BI Meetup group in Lithuania, Keserauskas, who will talk about how much does the business intelligence truly cost. So I can see your webcam, Aldis. Hello. And, yes, and let's try to sharing your screen as well.
Yeah,
and I see your screen. Great. And yes, people use the Q&A and ask questions about costs and others. The floor is yours.
Okay, so the screen is visible, yeah?
Yes, everything is okay.
Okay, so nice to be here. I would like to say nice to see you all, but at least you could see me, yeah. So yeah, about this topic, how much BI implementation costs. We and myself, I'm working with Power BI from the beginning and gone through quite many different projects, etc. And currently, the main focus is on Power BI and Power Platform training and consulting. Actually, in this case, so well, we do know some sort of things about that. So before going to actually looking how much this implementation costs, let's talk in a few sentences why organizations do start to think about something to implement on. So basically, many of you may be even familiar with Power BI, but from starting, the organization could see something like that. But it's very nice. You can grab data from different data sources, either from cloud, either from on-premises data sources. Later on, when you do these model things, etc., you can have really nice interactive visualizations. Or if you want, you can have paginated reports if that's a necessity. Yeah? You can expand Power BI with artificial intelligence or even with big data analytics in Power BI. And on the other hand, yeah, for end users, it's really convenient to access all this content, either from web or on premises. If you don't want to be in Microsoft Cloud, yeah. And another thing that it's happening is mobile phones, and it's getting more how to say trend in that. And what I'm particularly, how to say, happy is that these integrations and embedding it with some tools like Teams, for example. So embedding in other tools also a possibility. Yeah? And not least is that Microsoft is the analytics and BI performance is a constant leader for a few years right now in the market. Yeah, so that's a nice reasoning. And how we typically approach these implementations. And usually it starts with think like, okay, we have to understand, estimate some budget. We need to define some time and resources. What will we do? Will we do it internally, or will we hire some partner to do some project for us? Of course, we do have some business needs. For example, we want a sales reporting. We have some requirements. We have something on our minds, some sort of vision, yeah. And maybe it's not that we talk a lot about this, but what we are expecting from the outcome is accurate data, because without accurate data, we won't go anywhere. This beautiful things won't matter if the data won't be accurate. So looking at this, what we start to see, it looks really familiar as IT project, and it's not how to say uncommon. It's basically the typical implementation, but Power BI implementation starts with a project-based approach. Yeah. Another thing that we'll talk a little bit later is data culture approach, and this is maybe not so familiar for many of us, yeah. But we'll talk about that. So let's take a more simple approach right now, and let's see how project-based approach could cost implementing with Power BI. So basically, a simplified scope of a project would be envisioning and requirements, data and transformations, this is a technical part, modeling and reports, so we need to make this beautiful picture. And later on, at the final step, we need to publish. And by publish, I mean what we need is actually this technical stuff, but we need to place it in Power BI service, etc. But also we need some introductions for our people in the organization. We have to reach these new reports, maybe some little trainings, etc. So that's about it. Knowing what we are aiming for, what we can do is actually estimate how at least long it should take. So usually in the average scope, average complexity projects, what it could take, it's envisioning and requirements from 1 to 2 weeks. Yeah, data and transformations, it's usually a more harder part, because what we need to do is many transformations, etc. Data accuracy things that can come in mind, etc. So this could take from 2 to 5 weeks. Yeah. Modeling and reports could take from 2 to 3 weeks, basically many fine-tuning, adoption to what is needed, etc. And the last thing is this publishing. It usually takes quite quick, but with these trainings it could take up to a week. Yeah. And with publishing, what we actually need is licenses. And licenses part is probably the easier one. And let's see how we're doing it in Power BI with licensing. So actually, we have 3 products in Power BI family. Well, the obvious ones, yeah. And for authors, the ones who are building the data model, building the reports itself, etc., Power BI Desktop is actually free. So no matter how many users or something, if you are using it in Power BI Desktop, it's free for you to use. Yeah. Now, when we want to share it to organization, the Power BI Pro licenses are needed. So basically, to make it quite simple, if the user, some sort of user, wants to access any Power BI report that is published and etc., so this user needs a license. So the license is approximately €8 per month. And if we have, for example, 10 users in a project scope, 10 users who will be accessing these reports, it will be €84 per month for this reports to be able to see. Yeah? And Power BI Premium is actually for really large-scale deployments. If a company has like hundreds of users, it has really big data sets. I mean, many of data, like terabytes, maybe of data, etc. So this is when Power BI Premium might be needed. But usually organizations doesn't start from where. Usually they start with Power BI Desktop and Power BI Pro. I'm talking about average complexity and stuff. Good. So when we know the licensing part, let's get back to the project scope itself. And what we can do is actually convert these things to approximate amounts in money. Yeah? And we can see that our budget for a project could be from approximately 7,000 to 13,000 euros. Yeah? And this licensing part, what we already covered, 84 euros monthly, if we are talking about 10 users. That's about it. The project is done. You are able to use these reports, etc. Okay, but is it really the end of this stuff? And what project doesn't cover basically is basically adoption. And in other words, it's data culture. What do we mean by data culture? I looked at Aldis' presentation earlier, and he already also talked about this. It's behavior changing. Yeah, data culture is about changing the behavior. And to look at this more closely, yeah, what we do, what we can mean, yeah. So let's take a look at this value and time perspective. So if the project is deployment and activation, we have value, that's for sure. We will have some value, but afterwards, how people will use these reports, and it's coming from practice and not just ours, but overall with many consultants, and what Microsoft is seeing, that users tend to use these reports old-fashioned way. For example, just getting it to print, maybe to add it to PowerPoint as a presentation, or even just exports everything and gets to Excel. So actually what we are lacking over here is some sort of culture change, and usually what we can call it adoption and proficiency. So as you can see, the value increases with these steps, and beginning with adoption is actually training the users to get familiar with all the features that could change their everyday life, how we get around this new analysis of things, etc. So basically adoption of and even expanding to what we are usually having with old-fashioned reports, yeah. And proficiency is even moving more forward. It's leveraging all these possible things and starting to look forward. For example, expanding with AI, expanding with other things that we'll see. So what is the drivers for this adoption and later proficiency? Yeah? It's basically training to end users could be a starter. Yeah, as you know, that Power BI is changing every month. So basically, what organization needs to do is also make retraining or update the training for the end users. How we can do some things, how can they achieve one or other thing more easily, or something like that. Academies or some sort of training or knowledge, how to say, deepening for pro users is also a necessity, because in organization we will be getting some pro users, and their knowledge should also be increased, maybe not so much in their business perspective, what we already might know, but in this technical and more deep technical understanding, how Power BI works, what we can do, how we can expand it, etc. Internal marketing, that works really nice inside organizations. If there is some success story internally, it's sharing about it, getting more knowledge to other users, and building them to come to this new reporting, etc., and maybe even using some sort of things that we wasn't familiar beforehand. Yeah. And of course, it's really recommended to have this BI champions and communities inside organizations also. To have someone who end users can come to ask some questions, solve some problems, etc. This really drives this culture forwards, because the awareness and knowledge spreads little by little, but if it's constant, it will get you to this next level. Yeah. Okay, to summarize it, what we actually saying is actually organization should become agile BI mindset. Yeah. What does it mean? That well, our businesses right now is dynamic. So basically, what we need to do is to change dynamically and see where organization goals is and adopt with our BI stuff with organization goals altogether. So how much does this cost right now? Well, to be honest, it costs a lot, and it's really hard to make it into numbers, yeah, because different organizations have different approaches, etc., etc., and it's really hard to get it to the numbers. But it usually it costs a lot. But on the other hand, the benefits that you're having is well, maybe even better, because the value what you will get is not just few reports on sales, etc., but the culture in organization, how we are talking about I don't know, budgeting processes, etc., etc. Yeah? And it can lead the organization to another level. By meaning another level is what you can already be familiar, at least, is maybe moving upwards with BI, so expanding it with artificial intelligence, maybe adding more data, more reports, etc. But there's the possibility to expand it to other products like Power Apps, what we saw, proactive analytics, maybe actionable insights with Power Automate, and maybe in future some virtual agents what can rely on data. So it's basically up to the organization what steps they will move forward. Yeah. So that summarizes my just this intro, how much these implementations could cost. So if you saw that the project-based approach is quite understandable, quite easy to grasp, estimate, etc. This data culture is much more in open way, yeah, but it gives the benefits. And as you might know, yeah, every journey begins somewhere, and usually with some first steps. So every organization should choose how to approach that. And I'm ready to answer a few questions if we do have some.
Yes, thank you, Adas. We do have questions, and a reminder that this is a live bootcamp, so you can also use the Q&A format to ask a question. Maybe Adas didn't tell something that you were expecting Adas to tell about. The first question.
Yeah, sure. Just add it in Q&A and it will be covered. Yeah.
Yes, one of the questions is that multiple researches now show that business intelligence adoption, people factor, is why companies fail. Can you mention how companies are dealing with this and how much investing in this area is required?
Well, how much is required is it's very tricky to say how much, yeah, because we are talking about more soft things. The researchers actually right on the target, yeah, because usually in my even experience, what I see that project approach fails sometimes, not every time, but sometimes it's failing, yeah, because for example. The mindset from, I don't know, from sponsorship, etc., is that, okay, we invested X amount of money in this project and it should work, yeah? But for example, your even some sort of systems already changed and you need to adopt it in the Power BI itself. So it's not a fixed solution. That's why I guess not even me talking about this culture things, etc., but basically many of the consultants is talking that, okay, it's not the finite game in this Power BI story or even BI story, yeah? It's more of infinite thing that you are constantly doing it, and there's no end to that because the world is changing basically. But to answer how much, it's probably near to impossible.
Yes, okay. that was about the people's factors. I have yes, that is about the people factor. I have a question that when you are the leader of the Power BI group Lithuania, you members probably share some experience insights of what has been going on. And can you share anonymously, of course, maybe some of the interesting or craziest insights that people invested, I don't know, a week and doubled the turnover in this amount, and maybe just from your you as a leader, maybe you exchange some experience stories?
Good question. Actually, there wasn't. I don't know of any case, at least in my area of for what I know about at least huge things of investments and then afterwards failing. I know there's a big company who are doing actually the different department. They how to say focused all department on this cultural thing about data culture, etc. So it was really surprising for me even that we started to talk afterwards. We already implemented this new department, etc. And in this department, I guess there's at least five people who are expanding this organization, so including marketing it internally, etc. So that's a really nice story. In community, what our community members are sharing, there was one really interesting presentation about basketball club, actually, where Power BI is used to analyze basically another teams and make some decisions based on statistics about how we should play against some rivals in EuroLeague, actually. So it was really impressive presentation, sorry. And the interesting part that it didn't require too many, how to say, investments. It was only one guy who started to use Power BI. He was in some trainings, etc. And the culture itself, he was explaining a little bit. He feels that there could be more effort from the management, etc. But where we are getting there, because if we see some value, it gets how to say, even by its own. If some sponsorship will see that as strategic point and starts investing, I guess that you will get to some point much more quicker than it going on its own. So yeah, we do have quite interesting stories. I guess in every company there's a different situation, different mindset, etc. But well, if you're starting something, I guess you will at some point you will start to think about the journey and how to increase with this data culture by itself.
Yes, it's like that people expect some stories of interesting cases and something that they wouldn't think about. Some of the attendees that we're having here online at Bootcamp has never used Power BI before. And then some of these stories, make them around. But let's switch to the next question, and then if we have something more of the experience, then we can tackle that later. And we have a question, pretty broad one, but still, what would you say is the average cost of a Power BI implementation for organizations with 10 to 50 employees?
10 to 50 employees.
SMEs.
Okay, let's say for the beginning, if you will start with a project-based approach, I guess, well, we don't know the scope because organization size is not the defining way, by the way, in BI scope. More defining way is what data you have and how much analysis do you want. For example, let's say that it's a simple project like sales, etc., and the data is not over complicated. Yeah, so usually it will cost from, as I said, let's say from 5,000 euro to 15,000 euro, depending on the complexity of a project. But there is some sort of things that there's like free people company, but we have a huge amount of data, and they could cost like hundreds of thousands of dollars to implement something. So it's people in organization is not the defining factor in these approaches, basically.
Oh, okay. But is about the people factor is one of the other questions, or a follow up to the previous one. That what is the timeline? And yesterday we had a session when there was a case that there was one full-time employee at a large organization dealing with BI, and he was able to finish the project in 2 years. So what is in your
in 2 years?
opinion?
Yeah, well. Not sure about the details, but usually the journey, I have clients that we are investing constantly in Power BI, like for at least 4 years, maybe even 5 years, yeah. And we're doing it quite constantly, yeah. To say how to say, what we are trying to do is to achieve some successes a little bit in shorter periods. For example, what you can do is some projects or some parts even of projects you can achieve like in 1 month, in 2 months, etc. Depends on complexity, yeah. But usually, if you start from day X and your finished product that users will see will be in 2 years, basically, I guess that they won't even need this project anymore in 2 years. That's the case with basically what we have situation in current business, yeah. Because we need to be more agile in this thing. If you need some sort of thing, it probably business will need it quite fast, and be able to work in agile sort of thing is a way to go, I suppose, with this. I don't see BI implemented as projects as a whole. It could be, but basically it's maybe, let's say, it's a reporting system, not business intelligence implementation.
Yes, about agile, there's a question, pretty long one, but how to convince customers to start with this? Like basic things can be done, but going through a complex level, there's a rough timeline, minimum in months timeline, and then all the others are scared of
that could be a problem, but I suppose the question has an answer in itself. Yeah, starting with simple things works best, at least in my experience, because if the company is, I say that some organization, in this case, some customer, you come to this customer, and their let's say maturity level is not there right now. We are not into discussions about something big, etc. They just have like a little bit of interest, but we are not there. We don't have metrics. We don't have anything that could show that this company is mature enough to have this whole kind of solution. So in that case, it's probably even the best thing to start small. Like even I have few clients, quite big ones, who start from importing data to Power BI from Excel, actually. And from there, we get some awareness, we get some questions. For example, okay, I like this report, but can it update not from Excel, but from data source itself, and everything to do that automatically? Yeah. Yes, of course, it can do that, yeah, and that's another step, another discussion, and I see that they tend to open about that, yeah. If they see that something that we like as and the end result, the question will be, okay, I want to update these reports not every month, but every day. Maybe afterwards, I want to update it every hour, maybe, and like in 2 years, I will need this in real time. Yeah, so that's my at least thinking how to start. Start small, move step by step, and you will go like few miles every year. Okay.
Yes, and years now fly past pretty quickly. So in 2 years, just by starting small, you will see a complete different picture, right?
Exactly. You won't believe yourself how you when you started, what was your thinking, etc. Sorry.
Yes, and how in 2 years everything can be different. Okay, we're unfortunately out of time, but thank you, Adas, very, very much for joining. It's great to run a live bootcamp online with international speakers from the world. Today we're going to travel to another side of the world, and see you around the bootcamp, Adas.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to see you, everyone. Yeah.